The UDES 1516 is cracked within World of Tanks, and today's replay by Tudy Rumpel will showcase exactly why that is, and we're going to analyse why the UDES 1516 is so good within today's meta on World of Tanks, and of course you can check that out, and we can also highlight the key weak points of the UDES as well within this replay. Now of course the first thing that he does here is take the ridge line on the central ridge in Westfield, because of course that is where the gun depression of the tank comes into play, and because you get 13 degrees of gun depression with the hydropneumatic suspension that this tank gets, means that you can play on these ridge lines like an absolute king. And also because of the gun depression and the arc of the tank, it makes the armor model really effective on a ridge line, so you can be able to do things like what you're witnessing here. Now playing against things like the Kranvang, the Concept 1B, of course they all have very good turrets, and they are a similar sort of playstyle of tanks, so you are at a disadvantage in terms of the hull armour of the tank, which is I guess one of the key weak points of the UDES. However, because this tank actually gets a decent chunky hit point gun of 440 alpha per shot, it means that you can chunk away large proportions of the enemy hit points, especially if you're playing up against things like the Concept 1B, which only have 400 alpha, and so you can outtrade them in almost all regards. I guess that's where the UDES 1516 really comes into play really, and how it can be so powerful in the game under the right hands. And of course this replay by Tudy is showcasing how the right hands can perform and why you should be playing it in this sort of format, where you're cresting ridge lines, where you're using the gun depression, where you're able to pump out damage opportunistically, which is of course what you want to be doing in this tank. You don't want to be doing kind of full on engagement, frontal engagements, because this tank isn't particularly very well suited to that. It can perform into some degree, since the side armor of the tank can be a little bit troll since the spaced, and of course when you're coming up against tanks like the IS-7 you definitely don't want to be coming into close quarters engagement, since you probably won't be able to pen the turret if they face hug you, etc. So keeping a bit of distance and of course keeping yourself on a ridge line can make you almost one of the most powerful tanks in this sort of scenario, especially when you're coming up against tanks like this, like the TNH, who's sat out there. He's not really got too much on that he can do. He's going to be bouncing off the turret of the tank if he manages to get any shots onto you, and you can see there the hydropneumatic suspension coming into play, where you can lower the gun or the front of the tank to enable you to get even more gun depression. And what you're seeing here is him taking some shots towards the E100. Now then, what are the weak points of the UDES? Since we've talked so much about how good the tank can be, well, it is mainly this flat lower plate is terrible. You can get penned in the cupolas of the tank, but to be honest with you, you're not really going to be seeing that often, since most of the time you'll be angling at a pretty nice ratio, and therefore most people won't be able to get a nice shot up into them or down into them. The turret of the tank is very well angled, which means that much like the Kranvang, this tank is a formidable force, and therefore you're not really going to be able to pen it in 99% of the scenarios that you come into. And of course that's why he's been able to deal so much damage on this ridgeline and be the frontal force that the enemy team really hate. And now what you can see is the Kranvang here. He looks like he may be on a reload, and even if he's not, which he wasn't, he's going to be taken out with one shot, so not really a problem there. And now he can go towards the cap circle, which is of course a vital important thing. No one likes losing to cap, and certainly having done 6,200 damage and hoping to get much more, since there is 8,839 more hit points for him to farm in this game, then he will certainly hope to do so. Now then, the UDES in this sort of scenario, what is it kind of key things that it can do with regards to view range? Well, the UDES has some decent kind of view range aspects about the tank, which means that you can, in scenarios where maybe you're on your own or you're not able to kind of get much team support, maybe you don't have a light tank or maybe you don't have any other mediums near you, you can be the one that spots for your team. Now Tudy here isn't going to do that at this current moment in time. However, when he comes down to maybe if he's coming one-on-one with someone, or maybe he's trying to out-angle someone where he can find the opportunistic shot to be able to get one in by outspotting the opponents and coming from a different angle, which appears to be what he's trying to do here, then he will be able to have those good games. Now, you can see that the enemy are in the cap. It's probably the Batchat 25 TAP, but of course there is support from the right-hand side or the southeastern side of the map. where a lot of the enemy team are remaining, and so he has to be very careful with his approach now, and that is what I guess the UDES, it's not like some of the heavily armoured mediums that can bounce from the side. Most of the time, if anyone gets a real flat angle of your side, you do tend to take a hit, but it doesn't really matter when you're playing more passively, or when you're playing a little bit more kind of mindful of the tanks that you're going to be facing. And so you can see him now making a full aggressive push towards the enemy team. Now he's taking a bit more of an outswing here. Maybe he'll be able to spot some of the rest of the enemy team who are kind of sat over in the southeastern part of the map. He tries to do that. Doesn't come out too well, but he doesn't get spotted either, so that's something that the UDES can do pretty well. And you'll see that actually Chudi now uses the kind of the camo characteristics of the tank to get into this position. Now this position is good because it allows you to basically spot anyone that's trying to trail down here, whilst also providing vision into the cap circle, which may allow him to be able to get a shot into the STRVs, anyone that comes to try and take out the STRV. There is an FV 4005 in the game, which they have to be very careful about, since 1097 hit points is definitely not enough to take one of those hits. Now, having secured 4 kills within this game, he is definitely in a bit of a tricky spot. He needs to do something, otherwise they're going to come around in a bit of a sausage sandwich. He's going to end up with, you know, a pincer maneuver all around him, and therefore he's going to get taken out. So the only real way for him to win is to be the aggressor at this moment in time, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. Now there's a Leopard 1, which of course has good view range, and he's probably going to have similar sort of view range to the UDES, but since he's now moved into this spot, he can take out that Leopard 1, and because of the 440 alpha damage that this tank gets, he's able to do it in one shot, albeit it was fairly lucky. However, the Leopard PTA on the enemy team is now rushing the Stritz farm, so he's going to have to help out his team here, and he puts one into the Batchat 25 TAP. Now if he can finish off the Batchat in this next shot, that will secure a much needed helping of help within this game. He avoids the FV 4005 shot. Now he's probably undetected at this point, although we don't 100% know. However, he needs to be very, very careful. Now the Leopard PTA is coming down, he puts one round into him, and now he's on 8,700 damage done, and he has to be very mindful of the FV, because that tank is definitely the one that is going to be the punisher for the enemy team, and if he gets caught by any of his rounds, that will be game over. However, doing 9,000 damage within this replay is something that I'm sure he's very, very hyped. I'm sure he's trembling as he's going around and hoping that he's going to be able to secure the victory after doing such a great feat within this. However, the Leopard PTA is advancing, and he needs to get out of the render range of the FE 4005 to avoid being able to get hit easily by that tank. Now, having known this, I'm sure he's moved up to this position for that exact reason, and now he's just trying to spot the Leopard PTA, because I believe, given the Leopard PTA's hit points, he was a one-shot, or at least in the majority of scenarios he would be a one-shot. Now, he notices that he probably doesn't get spotted here, and that means that he can be able to sit in this sort of position and be able to hopefully pick apart the Leopard PTA with one singular shot as he kind of crests this ridgeline here in a similar sort of manner to you've just seen. Now, if he can do that, that means he can use the view range and the mobility of this tank to outplay the FV, which could be the benefit of using this tank over some of the other medium tanks, because the speed of this tank is actually pretty decent, and you're not really in too much of a bad scenario in most situations. So that's really what I believe Chudi has the advantage of within this. Now, there is one tank that everyone hates within the game still left alive, and that's the artillery piece. And so I'm assuming what Chudi's trying to do here is try and reflank around near the cap circle, because obviously the FV's got in the cap, he's the one that was nearest. The Leopard PTA probably didn't have enough time to go through the dip and then back up the hill without getting spotted, and so yeah, he's able to do that. Talking about the Leopard PTA getting spotted, he does, and so he puts a nice round into here. Here is the crucial moment. Will he get taken out by the FV? No, he doesn't, but the T92 HMC does fire a nice little round, so he marks on the map where the HMC is, and so now he's got the hard fought ending that no one likes to have against a HE firing tank or HESH firing tank that will basically one-shot you regardless of whether he manages to pen. So they don't have to aim, but you of course have to aim in this tank. Now, the T92 is of course on about 550 hit points, which means that he has to be able to know that he can deal that damage. Now he only tracks the FV here with that single shot, which was a little bit disappointing since he's loaded the HE just for the FV, or alternatively for the artillery. Both of them, it's a benefit to use. And so what he's doing now is being mindful. He's going to take out the artillery, since that is the tank that will probably ruin his day the most and will be probably the most annoying tank to come up against. He gets spotted by the artillery, but he takes him down very, very quickly. Now, the FV, can he get a shot from where he is onto Judy here? Can he do it? Will he do it? We don't know. So he needs to keep moving, he needs to keep the shot slim, and by this time he's hopefully undetected. And you saw there that the tree actually fell down from near the cap circle, and so I don't know if Judy realised that, but you're seeing how well he is coping under this pressure to be able to kind of think logically, don't make any silly mistakes, and that's exactly what we're hoping to see. So 10,000 damage done, with 499 assistance, and with a game that's racking up so many kills as well, 8 kills within this game, he must surely be thinking about what the potential outcome will be, a 1 versus 4 scenario that he will have been able to secure. And now it's time to hopefully spot the FV. Now, coming into this kind of bush position, it is of course a little bit risky. The FV could potentially blind fire the bush, but it would be very unfortunate if he was to do that, and you probably wouldn't see that anyway since the long reload of the FV. Now then, in this scenario, what is the key factor that he needs to do? Well, since the FV 4005 is not necessarily the best spotting tank, he can hope that he'll be able to outspot. And even if he doesn't outspot, what he can do is detect him at the same time, and therefore because of the accuracy of the UDES being hopefully better than the FV, then he should be able to secure and land a shot onto him with the HE round, which of course with this tank, as opposed to a standard tier 10 medium tank, will have 540 or 530 alpha damage comparatively to something like the Centurion, which may only have something like 500 damage. So he has that little bit of extra alpha damage because of the pure alpha damage of this tank, which means that hopefully, just hopefully, he can secure the kill in one singular shot, since the FV is on 504 hit points and of course he has 530 alpha normally, so hopefully he doesn't low roll, which of course is the key to this game and the key to winning it. Now, you can see him being very, very cautious, because you don't want to lose a game where you've done 10,000 damage, where you've managed to secure so much damage. Oh god, he misses the shot on the FV and he gets spotted, which is just like a double whammy of terribleness, and so he's just going to make sure that he remains behind the building. He's not going to make any silly plays because he only got spotted after firing, which means that he can probably poke or re-poke back down in this scenario, and now he needs to be careful of the FV. He's going to get down, he's going to hopefully place around into the FV when the FV comes around, and will he manage to do it? Well, he's looking around, he's trying to remap where he's going to be, hopefully be a little bit sneaky, and the FE won't realise he's this far over, and he can surprise him, and you can see him aiming here at where the FE is going to be. He's trying to bait the FE to come out, which of course is a good scenario or a good idea, because now the FE is out in the open. He places one round, but he doesn't actually manage to deal the damage. He's reloading. He's of course got another couple of seconds. Will the FE be able to butcher him? No, he doesn't, but he misses again, and the FV is now in a terrible, terrible position to take him out. 5 hit points left on the FV. Can he secure the hit points on him? Yes, he can. Now, the FV, in my opinion, could have easily won that game if he just decided to go after not receiving that first hit in the game, and therefore would have secured the victory. However, for us in this game, it's not that bad. He was not able to secure the kill on Chudi here, and that is why Chudi has managed to deal so much damage within this replay, 10,655 to be exact, and with 500 assistance damage as well. So what a great replay here by Chudi. Hopefully you did enjoy this, and of course check out some of the other replays on the channel if you like this one and you like the commentary, and of course let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of this replay and if you want to see more. Goodbye.